Greetings, brothers and sisters. It is April 3rd, excuse me, I'm sorry, October 3rd, Wednesday, October 13th, 2021. All of you all know me. If you look back in my TV, YouTube, whatever, you'll know that I've been that targeted bitch for almost 13 years. It's been 13 years. This has started when I was 29 and now I am 43 years old. Well, again, as I tell you, say I've been like electronic torture victim. But today, something really hit home for me. I was watching the news. When I was watching the news, I was looking at the news, and on the news, a mother was pleading for her child. She was asking the police to do an investigation and search for her son. All the while, at that point, all the while she was doing that, seemed like she had to convince the police department that her son had value, because this was an African American woman and her child was an African American, of course, and he had disappeared. And at that point in time, she said, my son is not, she said, he's just not someone who would walk off, because he's that type of person who's always there, who has to have things done and to complete everything. And she was at that point in time is that because she was again she was African American and African American children. She began to list how her son had value, that so he was not a gangbanger. He was not in the street. He had worth because he was going to grad school, and he was that particular person who was actually the good black or the good minority, and that he had value. So because of the list that she had listed, the list of things she had given to the police department, they should look on the list and said, okay, this might have more likely been the adequate or acceptable African American who was actually trying to make something of themselves. So we may give them maybe a partial or half search to look for her son that at that point in time had been missing for 20 days. And so she said, as at one point she felt she had to, in her home family and friends and people she doesn't even know, had to do footwork for her because the police department wouldn't do it. And she went into a list and said, my son is a good boy. He said, I raised him right. At the point he was gaining a master's degree. She said, my children, my children compete, and they try to make sure their GPA matches each other, so they can say, okay, we can get approval from themselves, their peers, their school, whatever, professors, because they're the educated black or good black. And so at some point in time, she began to start to weep for her child. And she told how rudely she was treated. She was called by the coroner after 20 days and told him, look, we took your DNA, we did a DNA test. We got some of the hairs of your son or whatever DNA from your son. We're going to do a match after 20 days because they had found a body originally. And then they went back and, from the dental test and the DNA, they found that this was her son. And even she said that there were some girls that went over to where he was found, the body was found, and found clothing and additional clothing that I really think that the police officer, if they were doing a search, they should have found that at that point. But that's not the actual issue here. And actually, it is an issue because I was concerned because as she was afraid that someone had taken her son's life. And she was afraid that someone has taken his son's life for the simple thing of possibly more likely color, or just because at that point in time, she felt that because of what the police officers and all these people were doing was a little bit odd, and she felt like that they'd taken his life just for the simple thing of race or religion or whatever people do to take people whatever people do to take another individual's life over something petty or stupid. Or he thought he was a little bit more than, or that person thought they're a little bit more than what they should be. So some people can kill to put that person in their place. So she was on TV and weeping about it, and what hit home to me is that why should she have to convince the whole world that her son had value, that her child had value, regardless of their skin color, their religion, if they're male or female? She was sitting there convincing them that, and even on TV, she went into a spiel of convincing that those people that her son had value, to look into this investigation. Please keep your eyes open, because she needed her son. She loved her son. She loved her child. And she just wanted to make sure that whoever hurt her child be brought to justice. But she was made a mockery of, dismissed, laughed at, and even swept under the rug. And so as I was listening to this, my heart began to ache, because I myself, just like each electronically tortured victim knows, it seems at some point, and I guess I would say, I had that moment of epiphany, and it hit me, and I told myself, I know, like every other electronic torture person says, when did I lose my value? At what time did the government, or these people who are perpetuating this enslavement, when did they convince themselves that I was not a person that had value? When did they convince themselves that I was nothing? When did they, no matter, regardless, and we live in America, no matter, regardless of what claims that may have been uttered against me or said about me, when did I lose my value to live? When do I lose? When did I become this inhuman person that I should lose my identity, my brain, my identity, my self-respect? And they used all this to mutilate me, maim me, take my brain and use it as some shit show. And I ask myself, and I continue to ask myself, who has the right to do that to you? I mean, your government does not have the right to take your life and demean you, disrespect you, and all those things that can be listed, and feel that they still have the right that their citizens should be obedient to them, and that the government has a right to be heard when you do not hear your citizens. And as I'll sit there and I said, I live in a country now that it seems like, I watch TV and everything, no one is actually having the real conversation. Everybody thinks it's something they can joke about a little bit here. I mean, it's like, have you ever noticed that people don't, if you're on TV shows or talks, they don't have real conversations. They want to pretend like the elephant is not in the room. They have all or outlandish conversations that nobody can truly follow, because they're like, what are they talking about? We live in a time where we have the largest rate of, there is a disease that is in the land. And people, because of their self-centered ways and intentionally uninformed, lack of respect, excuse me, let me just go back. Excuse me. I said we first America self-centered people. Secondly, you have dumb politicians that don't know really truly how to handle a pandemic or how even to be truthful about their mishandling of this disease. So we have first you shut the government down, which everybody lost millions and billions of dollars. Then they restarted, but they don't know how to adequately get the ball rolling. So everything is hit or miss, and everybody is running around not knowing anything and dying in astronomical waves because they can't trust their governments. They can't trust again they can't trust their government. They don't understand what the government is doing, and also all this misinformation is being put out there, and then they retract it the next day, and which cause people to die. And so what I understand is that I feel like the US is a big experiment that nobody's been told about, and that the government is using all this information to mislead, misguide, and ultimately kill off half of its population because it has no more funds for it. So I feel that we live in America who don't value their citizens enough to collectively come together and establish a foolproof plan that can make sure that the citizens are well informed, know what to do, vaccinate themselves if they want to, and then go out back to work and and start the machine in a perpetual uplifting and unlifting and changing and moving ourselves into a better generation. I believe that with my whole heart. But I'm going back into the situation of having no value. I think I watch all targeted individuals and how we are losing. I mean, I have been here in 13 years. Some people I've heard of were in 20, 30 years, and they don't believe in their government. They're home. I mean, they're sad. Their funds are depleted. Some of them are homeless. Some of them have nothing. But the government is still hell set and hell bent on destroying them. And I asked them, I says, I thought I lived in the beginning, lived in a country that everyone had value, no matter their color, race, or religion. And then when this happened to me, I realized I have no value. I realized I had no value. And I don't care if someone deems you good or bad or not, or if they call you a prostitute or not, you still have value. I believed in the fundamental belief that everyone has value. That's what God gave you when God assigned you to this earth and you were born, you had value. You are a valuable part and citizen of this country. And I believe that this country is in chaos. I think that this country has dismissed, written away, and ultimately has no value for the human being or the Constitution, which has been laid forth and is the hallmark of America. I believe that the U.S. the U.S. wants to steal its individuals' rights away and use them to gain power. And what I mean that is that if someone steals my rights away, and then at that point in time is that they know they're wrong, but they steal my rights away and hang me and pretend like, and then they steal my rights away and hang me in the middle of the hang me in the middle of the road, and I'm hanging, and at that point in time, they knew that they're wrong, but they start to make fun of the hanging person, like that person has no value, and it's telling that it's just, and this is how we're going to look at her. She's lying. She's hanging. We're hanging her in the middle because there's something that she did. I don't believe that anyone can lynch a person and tell them that they're the ones who are doing something wrong when you're the one who's lynching them and giving them not giving them due process. But anyway, You cannot tell me that the government can go in front of the whole world, lynch its citizens, make fun of them, and pretend like they have no value, pretend like they have no value, and there won't be a strong repercussion or a strong backlash because of that. Because to me, it will breed mistrust, anarchy, and rioting, and ultimately battling for the right to live as a human being. I think that in the U.S. we're going to become into harder days and heavier days, in that we can no longer not look at the elephant in the room. We cannot no longer say electronic torture victims do not exist. This must stop. I say this to you in the beginning. Have you seen? And what I can say to you is that, have you seen the increase in violence because of the pandemic, but also because of what's going on? But ultimately the increase in violence, the increase of dismissal of human rights, the increasing of wrongdoing, and by the powers that be. And those people know that they're doing wrong, but they say that since nobody's saying nothing, they can do what they want. Nobody's saying nothing. Everybody's looking and dismissing it. And at some point, somebody's going to say, "I'm tired of this shit." And that's why I believe that the increase in guns have become to its all-time high. The increase of guns, actually not the increasing guns, but I'm saying the increase of shootings, murders, killings, rapes, because there has been no establishment of because there's been no establishment of what is wrong and what is right when your government can go through and hang a human being in front of the whole world and say that she is lying or she's pretending, and that government can dismiss that human being and say they have no value. And therefore, people who usually follow the rules and go along with the rules of that nation say, "I cannot condone and go along with that nation's rules anymore." That what I have to do is they have to perpetuate an anarchy. They should give a dismissal. They should get he said America's setting the example. I mean, setting the example that they can kill other people. So why can't they go in and kill other people? I mean, why can't they go ahead and do whatever they should think they should do to defend themselves against whatever foe that has come against them? Because America won't protect them. America won't protect you. America won't sit there and look each other in the eye and take a look at you and take accountability for human. To hanging these individuals in front of town square. They just look over there and say they don't exist and keep moving. And that cannot be ignored anymore. That cannot be dismissed anymore. I think targeted individuals. I know that we all felt this. For our lives, we feel like we are in a moment that we feel that our brains, our bodies, and ultimately our soul is under attack. And that those who are in power know this and perpetuate this and hope that we just shut the hell up and die. I mean, can't you just shut the hell up and die as soon as possible? That's what I feel that the government feels about electronic torture, as long as they can keep and hang on to their little weapon that they have. I mean, in this country, American citizens are in the fight. They are in the fight for to not be actually guinea pig, but also the fight for their own soul and their own thoughts to think whatever they want, not to be guided by our government and so, oh, this is the way you should look at this. This is the way you should look at that. This is the way. No, this is the way this is going to be done when you know it's wrong. Is that I see so many times that people do not understand where their government is coming from. America is in the fight for their rights, reproductive health, their brains, their mental health. their right to live, their right to have housing, their right to have financial equality and stability. And I feel that we as a people, even we as technology and torture victims, we're not able to ask all we need. We're deemed mentally unstable, or lying, or that is something funny. I tell you this now: if you watch another person's life being taken, and and you joke about that, and people who are onlooking seeing, oh man, that's wrong, and he said, oh, I know it's wrong, but I can get away with it, and they can, I can get away with it, and I'm going to do what I want to. That intrinsically makes others mad who are onlooking. They either do whatever the hell they want to do, either get upset and start to either save that person or fight back. Because they say, man, you think you can do that person like that? I don't want to be done like that. I mean, you're not gonna get away with that. So that starts a fight between the onlookers as well as the person perpetuating the crime. And then lastly, I believe is that there are some places where that the U.S. use the hurt and pain and the perpetuating of perpetuating of electronic torture to mentally incarcerate, or I don't want to say mentally incarcerate, but to I won't say mentally incarcerate. Excuse me. I meant to. They are using the pain of electronic torture victims to cause fear, to say that, okay, to make fear their weapon. If they can make fear their weapon, then they can you can control a few and mentally control all of them. So because I am so afraid that the government may electronically torture me, like Sherry over there, or whoever Dana over there, then I'm so afraid I can't do anything. I'm just going to, not look it over, not pay attention. And so they use that to control all the masses. And I don't think that's right, because in the end, we're going to fall. America's going to fall, because nobody can stay in that heightened state of fear, misunderstanding, all that different stuff without going crazy and mentally losing your shit and fighting back. So first of all, this is just possibly most likely a rant, but first I want to say to electronic torture brothers and sisters, I understand and I hear you. Lately I have been losing my ability to speak clearly and to focus on a clear thought. So I just was hurting so much, I needed to actually put this down and just say something about it. And if you don't like it, hey, you gotta look at it. It wasn't for you, okay? But again, as I said to each my electronic targeted brothers and sisters, we are in the fight for freedom. And we are losing in monumental ways. We are losing mentally, physically, and emotionally. I ask you, electronic torture victims, how many of you have lost something mentally? Have you been losing your memories? I've been losing my memories. I have lost a lot of memories. Also, too, is that lately I've gotten to the point where I'm falling asleep so much. Not in my, but I stay at home a lot of times. So, but I'm talking about is I'm at home, and all of a sudden I start to write something, and it seems like I go into a trance, and I find myself. I remember found myself sitting on the edge of a bed, and then I found myself in the kitchen, and I don't know how I got there, but what I was doing. That's happening to me more and more, and also too, bleeding, nose, vagina, I've had it nose, vagina, everywhere. Everywhere you at anus, I've been bleeding. Also, too, the largest part is the forgetfulness, not being able to concentrate, as if I'm in a fog. I noticed that more and more. It seems like I'm sleepwalking through life. Like someone can say things to me. It's like I'm in a trance. I'm sleepwalking, and I can't remember if that person was real. I really talked to that person, or not. I tell you, electronic torture brothers and sisters, we are in a fight for our souls. We are fighting for our brains, our reproductive health, not to be put in a coma, um, to be put in, again, let me tell you, not to be put in a trance or a coma that we cannot get up. And these things are not normal. Sometimes I find myself convulsing, or and that I can't control of them because it started to actually move by itself, like convulse by itself. Like a small seizure in that area. But I tell you again, because we have to do something about us all. We must stand together. I was wanting you to know is that I really wanted to do a podcast, and I remember that they have on Fox TV. They had we each person could link up. It was 5 people who would be invited to the panel, and we will all speak on our issues of being electronically tortured, how we've gone to the police, who we've contacted, all that different stuff. And we would put that specifically out, and they would see us. They would see our, you can wear your mask if you want to. If you don't want to really truly be seen, you can certainly wear your mask, your breathing mask. But I think we all need to get together and talk. And I think they need to see us. And so we can't go outside and sit. We need and protest. They need to see us. And more than likely, because people are nosy or they're lonely, they will click on our podcast together. And I'm asking whoever can help me do that. And we should be able to do that at least twice a week. And I will ask somebody. I'm not that computer savvy, but I want to ask at least, I would like to ask somebody who can help me do that and be able to have some folks who would like to be invited to the table. And we talk about electronic torture, and we talk about the truth. Not what somebody wants to make all these odd comments, or afraid that somebody's talking about them, or they're looking at in my brain on a computer, and you're looking at their phone and see what I so-called possibly may have said, and which I know I didn't. It seems like to me is that it's like they did to me some kind of like something like the Willie Lynch, where they went and said, "Oh my God, don't you know that she's saying this about you?" I don't understand why I would be talking about somebody else. I can barely remember my own words to speak for myself. So why would I talk about somebody else? And I think it's very arrogant for you to believe that I will sit there to waste my time, and I'm being tortured to think about you. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm saying God bless every person in human being in this life. But as you know, every torture victim can tell you, please. The most electronic victims I learned trying to remember their own names and what they did at least a year or two ago. They're not sitting around thinking about you in their brain, saying nasty stuff about you or disrespectful stuff, because first of all, it's invalid and stupid, and it's a waste of time. My brain hurts. It's like my brain hurts even when I think it hurts. I'm trying to drag my brain out of a dark place. And I find that people are wondering, like, oh my God, I don't like her because she talked about this on. I said, truly, honey, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't go around trying to talk about people because it's a waste of time. I mean, what would I waste my time talking about people? So I want you, first of all, when you think about electronically tortured victims, and I want to ask you this question, and that's for everyone in this country, everyone across the world. First of all, I would ask yourself, would you want that happening to you? And if that person is talking about you, talking about someone, they're being forced to talk about something. So they're forced to talk about something else because nobody wants to look at the elephant in the room. Nobody want to look at the truth. They just want to have some stupid ass conversation about something else, what dog shit or peanut butter jelly sandwiches. I don't know, or cat shit. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck they want to look into, but I'm saying this to you. If you think somebody, like any electronic torture victim, we need help, not hindrance, not somebody whining and crying about things, somebody thinking about they're talking about them. Honey, I might see some myself, I'm like that, or I say, Lord, I wish I could wear that dress today, or I don't think that would dress look good on me, but but that goes as far as every day. When I get out of bed, I have to drag myself out of bed. I use a walker. It hurts. It physically is a pain for me in my brain to long think. So I'm always wondering, these people, because these days people think that I have said something against them, they feel that they are right in bothering me, making calls. Do you know how many calls I get, fake calls I get daily? Or they feel that they have a right to bother me and hinder my life when I ain't thought no more about them. And if I did, it wasn't something that was, mind shaking or put down. I just say, okay, maybe, it's just it's just stupid. Yeah, it's stupid. And I'm just tired of being in the cycle of people who want to hinder you because people feel as if they're right. They think they have a right to follow you and stalk you as well, or hurt you or do whatever they wish to do to you uh, because someone told them they could, or it's because they want to go along and have solidarity with people who perpetuate a wrong hate crime, wrong hate, sexual hate crime, and they want to go along with it because they can't think for themselves. Imagine what a better place America would be if people thought for themselves. And guess what? That's why. That's why electronic torture must have taken off because Americans find it hard to face themselves and think about real things that hinder them and hold them back. But again, I'm going to last thought and then I'm going to leave. It seems like our humanity was taken again, and to the point that we have lost our value and our voices. And at some point in time, they're trying to torture victims. There's going to be a showdown. And possibly it might be a violent one. Probably might be just some protests. But I don't believe that the state of America cannot continue in this path that we forget and pretend like trying to torture victims don't exist. We have a government that will fight